Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Emax Buzz 6S edition. Previously on the channel I took a look at the 4S edition and the only thing that has changed are the spec of the motors. Everything else is the same because on the 4S edition the stack, the camera, everything is the same and can accept a 6S voltage. It's just the motors that couldn't. So the motors are still a 2306 stator, but they have changed in kV. So the 4S edition are 2400 kV, and the 6S edition are 1700 kV, which is actually a equivalency of around about 2550 kV if you were to convert it to a 4S voltage. Now I've been flying the 4S edition on a 1550 milliamp 4S or thereabouts, and its 6S equivalency is a 1050. So that would be the fair comparison. And I can go even higher if I want longer flight times. So we've got this 1100 GMB battery that I might try. Also with the original, I preferred the flow props, even though you got huge voltage sag and you didn't get a very long flight time. When I tried the Scimitar, and thank you all of you guys in the comments for correcting how I say Scimitar, so it's pronounced Scimitar. No, I'm just kidding, it's Scimitar. I just wanted to see how many people hammered the keyboard before they actually got to the part where I pronounced it correctly. And I found that I actually got a bit of prop wash, and the original props I think were these ones. So they are a 5026, so 5-inch, but actually I think this model can take a 6-inch prop, and I think they're working on a 7-inch arm as well. But what those numbers mean at the end, so 5026, that means for every rotation in an ideal world without any drag, the prop should move forward 2.6 inches. But they've come out with these new versions of the Scimitar. So we have got a 5028, so 2.8 inches, and then a 5030, so 3 inches. And usually with Freestyle it's like 5040. So that never usually translates into how the model performs. So I can try these two props and see if I prefer them to the flow, because the flow is very heavy on current, but it flies fantastic like this. Another thing that's changed since I did my 4S review is Brain 3D have come out with some 3D printed mounts for HD cameras. Don't make the mistake that I made and select the 20-degree option. I didn't realize there was a drop-down box. As you can see, these should be flat because there's already an angle on there for the HD camera to sit on. So I think I then went and got the 30-degree option, and as you can see they line up. Another thing that's changed since my 4S review is that when they released this model, it had got a release candidate of Betaflight version 4. And a couple of days later they came out with the official version of Betaflight 4 and a new configurator, and when you connected the configurator to the release candidate, the modes tab would lock up and it didn't work properly. So since then Emax have come out with a CLI, so I'm going to go through that and set it all up for Betaflight 4. So here we are in the Betaflight configurator. You get it from the GitHub website, and this is the latest version 10.51. So I've got the Emax Buzz plugged into the computer via a USB lead, and you can see it says COM16 at the top there. If you don't get anything here, then you need to install these drivers. Now the problem with the Buzz is that it has come with a release candidate of Betaflight 4, so if I connect to it, everything seems fine, but if we go down to power and battery, you can see everything is set as 0, and also the modes tab just has got ARM, and then from this point on everything has locked up. So what Emax have done is they have come up with a different CLI for Betaflight version 4. We are way past Betaflight version 4 now, and I guess that is the downside to investing into Emax, is once they have the setup, then you can't really upgrade it unless you want to change the setup, because they're working off a particular version of Betaflight, and Betaflight changes a lot. So what we have to do is go onto the Emax Buzz website. It's the Emax USA one, and then scroll down to the bottom, and there should be download, and that will take you to Google Documents. Now you can either copy all of this information and put it into a text document, or you can just take it from here, and we can see the target that we need, so it's Omnibus F4. But if you aren't completely sure of the target, what we can do is, if I go back into Betaflight and reconnect, so it does lock up, but you can reconnect to it, and then if I type in version, so Omnibus F4, so I can disconnect there and then go into the firmware flasher. I need to select Omnibus F4. Might take a second because it's downloading the information from the internet. So we want Omnibus F4. It's the non-SD version, so there we go. And then we want Betaflight 4.0. As you can see, we are now on version 4.04, but the CLI dump that I have downloaded is specific to version 4. We want to do full chip erase and manual baud rate at 256000. We want to do full chip erase because we don't want any of the previous data on there, because some of the syntax may have changed in this update. So I'm going to load the firmware online, and that's downloading, and then I'm going to flash firmware. Hopefully it'll go into DFU mode, and there we go, it is erasing and flashing. So the reason they had to come up with a new CLI as well is that on the auxiliary 4 they come up with a way for the VTX to turn off. It doesn't really turn off, it kind of goes into pit mode, and that also wasn't working if you just transferred their CLI from the release candidate to the official release of Betaflight version 4. So they had to do some work, and good on them. However, I suppose you can't expect them to release a CLI for every version of Betaflight that comes out, because there is a new version every other week, it seems. Anyways, you can see that that is successful, so I can now connect to it. And now if I go to the modes tab, you can see that everything is populated, but we don't have any settings, and you can see nothing locks up here, and power and battery is reading correct. And the reason we don't have any settings, even set to brushed, is because this is the stock settings that the Omnibus F4 target comes with. This is where we now need to go down to here, and from where it says name, I need to copy this information. Okay, so it says save at the bottom as well, so now if I just do Control C, which should copy everything from there, and go back to Betaflight and go into the CLI, I should be able to do Control V and paste everything in, and you can see that it has copied and pasted because we can now see save. So I just got to press enter, and all of that should go in, and if we have any failures it should show up in red, and I'm not seeing that, so everything's going well so far. And that was the case with the 4S version as well, so I'm not expecting any issues here. Look at all of those settings go though. So it's saved, and now I can reboot, and the beeper is making a noise. I think it might be because my transmitter is turned off, but the first thing that I'm going to do is go into the modes tab, because it's probably got a beeper set up on it, or is it the warnings maybe? It's got all of these on here. Let's do save and reboot and see if that fixes the beeping first of all. Right, yeah, it was the warning, so no beeping now. So we can actually check out the setup that it's put in. So we've got the TBS Smart Audio on the UART 6, and the UART 1 has got serial RX. So into the configuration tab, we've got D-Shot 600, and I think these ESCs are capable of D-Shot 1200, but they say not to mess with the settings, so I'm going to keep it as D-Shot 600. The motor stop off is how I would fly it, and the motor idle at 6, I wouldn't change any of that. We've got the PID loop and gyro update frequency as 8K, that is all fine. Arming angle. Now I don't know whether they are aiming this guy at a beginner, I wouldn't have thought so, but if you have the maximum arm angle at 25, if you want to take off at a bank, some banks can be more than 25 degrees. I switched that to 180 degrees, which means that the copter will arm no matter what angle it's at. I've explained this before, it's a safety feature. It's so that if you have left your model plugged in and you're carrying it and you accidentally hit an arm switch, then the motors don't start. But I like to take that risk because it means if you get stuck in a tree and disarm, then you can rearm to try and get it out of that tree. Personalization, we have got buzz, and it looks like it is set up for FR Sky and S-Bus. This servo tilt here, this is how they have done the VTX switching off. They've manipulated something in the code, and that's why you have to have the CLI from Emax, essentially. So down here we've got air mode, on-screen display, ESC sensor, anti-gravity dynamic filter. So all of that is turned on, and we know this model has a beeper because we were hearing it earlier, so it's got the RX lost and the RX set turned off for D-Shot because it will work for the beeper that is built into it. And you saw the couple of warnings there for the beeper configuration. I turned them off just so it wasn't beeping the whole time through this video. What's interesting is ESC sensor is turned on, so I must have actually missed that in the ports. There we go. On the UART 3 we have got ESC telemetry. So let's go to the power and battery. So it's got ESC sensor for the current meter source, and then we have got all of these warning cell voltages. Again, I like to have these low. I'm going to put them both at 3.3 because I don't like to have the on-screen display flashing at me. And we've got the scaling here, but then of course we've got the ESCs for the current meter down here. So I'm not going to touch any of that. PID tuning, again, when I flew the 4S version of the Emax Buzz, the PIDs were fantastic, so I'm just going to leave everything here and also all of the settings here because it flew really smoothly. The only thing that changed how the model flew were the props. I'm even going to keep in there RC Expo here. Have they got different profiles? Yes, seems like they have got 3 profiles in general, but I'll keep it on profile 1. And then the rate profile, does any of that change? So I think, yeah, it's just got the 1 rate profile and then the rest are all stock. Right, so onto the receiver. Setup is TAER1234. It does have the RSSI on the aux channel, and this is the moment of truth because with the 4S version it did have the RSSI on the aux 5. However, yeah, it's got an XM Plus. That's not going to work. I don't think there is a firmware that has the RSSI on the aux 5. One good thing about the Emax stack is that the receiver powers from the USB, so I've already bound it so I can turn my Tyrannus on, and hopefully we should start to see some values unless I'm too close. No, there we go. Yeah, so no RSSI at all, so same as the 4S version, so I'd either have to flash the XM Plus receiver with the RSSI firmware, but I'm just going to have it disabled for now. And the only thing I would change here is I like around about 5 in my RC deadband, just so that it's a little bit smoother around the center of the sticks. So if I press save there, Then into the modes tab. So this is their modes, but I'm going to change them for how I've got my transmitter set up. So aux 1 I have as arming, but aux 2 I have angle mode first. I like to have the option to always start in angle mode and then acro, even though most of the time I start in acro. When I'm testing a model, I'll usually do a quick line of sight in angle mode to make sure that everything's okay. I don't use horizon mode, so I'm going to get rid of that. And then if we come down here, I have the beeper on the aux 3, which is fine. And then I'm not going to have anything on the auxiliary 4, except for setting it up in my transmitter so that I can have pit mode. So you have to remember that when you add the CLI, auxiliary 4 is going to turn your VTX into pit mode. I actually learned that the hard way, because it's set actually to be in pit mode in the back position, well, on the Tyrannus anyways. So I was plugging the model in and all of my FPV feed was fuzzy, and I was like, what is going on? But it's the auxiliary 4, and I had set it up on my transmitter, but it's an internal thing, so you can see nothing else on there. Anyways, that's how I'd set my modes up, so I'm going to press save on there. Motors, we don't need to go into there, and then the on-screen display. So what have we got here? We have got the RSSI value, which I'm going to turn off. That's actually hidden, must be under one of the, oh no, there it is. Timer 2, I would have craft name, yep, fair enough. Current draw, milliamp draw, warnings, I'm going to turn off warnings. Average cell voltage, no, I don't like average cell voltage. I like to have the overall voltage. So that would be main battery voltage. I'm going to have to move that into the correct position. And what was that other one? ESC temperature. Might move that a long one just so that it's in line there. We don't have the VTX channel, so that's something else that I would add. So maybe just stick that one up there and put that one there. It's very important for me to have that because I fly with others, so I know what channel that I'm on. And I think that's all I would change. Oh, down here as well. Yeah, max speed is already turned off, so that's fine. Press save on that. And that's pretty much everything. You're going to want to check your failsafe, of course. So set your Tyrannus. If you are using a Tyrannus, you probably are, because I think at the making of this video they only do it as a bind and fly with FrSky. So make sure that your Tyrannus is set as no pulses. Have all of the props off and arm the copter when you have plugged your battery in, obviously, and then turn the transmitter off and the motors should stop. And that is the setup for Betaflight 4 with the Emax Buzz, the 6S edition, but it will also be the same for the 4S edition. This first flight was done with the Scimitar 5028 propeller. It's a really dreary day. I'm flying between rain clouds, so apologies for that. Seems to be the story up until now regarding weather in the UK. I'm flying around these rugby posts to see if I get any prop wash oscillations, because that was a complaint that I have with the 5026 propeller that comes stock with this model. And it seems like this prop has improved it. It was a struggle to get prop wash oscillations, although I still think I prefer the Avan Flow propeller with this model. Even though it is heavier on the current, I think you get a smoother flight out of it. So with this being the 6S model, we are actually getting some video noise through from the electrical system, and that's something that you get if you don't have the right filtering and go up in the voltage. So speaking of voltage, let's take a look at it, and look at that. In a punch out it went to 18 volts. Now I'm definitely sold on 6S when it comes to light 5-inch racers and also lightweight 3-inch racers, but I'm on the fence with 6S when it comes to freestyle, because this model has just shown it. I'm still getting considerable amounts of voltage sag to the point where I should be landing. So you want to be landing around about 21.4 volts with this model, and it's going down to 18 volts on a punch out. So is that any worse than a 4S going down to 13 volts? I don't think so. So I'm on the fence with it, and the reason that is, of course, because it's a heavier model. So, you know, we are upwards of 700 grams with this guy carrying a HD camera, and again you can see it's dropping below 21, and we're only 2 minutes into the flight. Saying that, when it comes to components and lipos, it's 50-50 now, and it's not like you can use the excuse that 6S lipos are more expensive than 4S lipos, because there is about 1 GBP difference in it. You know, I think it just happens to be the case that the 6S lipos that are available are all high quality ones, but if you compare them against an equivalent high quality 4S, the price is the same. Anyways, I'm gonna skip towards the end of this flight, which was just under 4 minutes, and I'm landing at just around about 21.4 volts, which is around about 3.5 volts per sal. This next flight was done with the Scimitar 5030, and there's not much difference between them than the 5028, but watch the voltage here. 19 volts and 11 seconds into the flight, which is why I am not sold on 6S with a freestyle model. Now, I'm sure there is a happy medium in terms of weight somewhere that will get you efficiency from a 6S lipo with a freestyle model like it is done for race copters. The problem is that weight is on your side with a freestyle model. Just listen to the RPMs in this power loop. Can you hear them tail off? That is the exact result you would expect from too much voltage sag, and that's what's happening here. But with freestyle, you want a heavy copter. It's the weight that is giving you smooth video. Actually get some prop wash oscillation there, you see, in the sharp turn. Could have been avoided. I think that may have been my control. Both of these props definitely have improved the prop wash handling of this model. But yeah, I don't think it's doing the battery any good. Definitely getting voltage sag just like you would if it was a 4S model, and it needs to be lighter. But flies really nice, I have to say, and the HD footage comes out really nice. And I'm just messing around here just to see what the range is like. So this is using the rapid fire system, and as you can see, there's not much video breakup, just the lines you're seeing on the screen. It's electrical noise. So again, just doing lots of power loops and things. I think the flight time was slightly shorter, but you know, when you talk about a 5030 and a 5028, there's not much difference between the two, and I couldn't notice much difference other than I was getting even more voltage sag with this one, and that makes sense because it's got a higher pitch on the propeller. Just check out this punch out. Look at the voltage, 19, 18, and you can hear as well, but look, it recovers to 21. So yeah, just like a 4S model would do, you know, you do your punch out. I think it recovers more quickly for sure. So anyways, more about this model. Yeah, the current meter I think is reading just slightly below, and it caught me out on this flight actually, because this is a 1050 milliamp LiPo, and I was looking at the current, because you can't really look at the voltage with a 6S because it just drops off the edge, and it's very difficult to say, okay, we're at 21.6 volts now, let's land. But oh, look at that, it's just sagged below, you know, 21 volts, but it then recovers really quickly, can you see? And we're at 21.4. That's when I should be landing, but I'm looking at 927 milliamps, and that's wrong, because it is getting very close to killing the Lipo. In fact, I think it almost does. It flashes in the 19s. But anyways, I'm gonna end it there, and I'll leave you with the flight that was done with the 5026 propellers. I'll link to the model in the below if you wish to get one, and as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.